We live. What's up, everybody? All the people here waiting. A bunch of nobody. That's okay. We're gonna record this and run through. I hope we get some people to show up. Hope everybody's doing well out there that watches this later. Let me see if I can get a good position on this, and we'll get started. Man, we had some big happenings today, and 1 second there. I'm gonna go ahead and say that looks all right. Yeah, big happenings today. Let's see, we'll bring this a little closer. Put it right there. Chase this cord. Sorry, guys. Okay. Much better. Much better. So frame it up good. Sorry. I'm a photographer, I guess. So, all right, cool. So, like that. So, hope everybody's doing well out there, man. Yeah, big day. Big day. I really wanted to take the time. I started this channel, and there's a whole bunch of different things on it. And recently, been talking about a lot of geopolitics, and for me, it's just necessitated by what's happening in the world. So that's kind of what there is to talk about at the moment. And so that's really what I want to address. I do have a good bit of experience in this stuff. Something I paid attention to most of my life, and I used to like good stories in high school. Toscano, he was my homeroom teacher, and he also taught political science. I used to be able to go in and just sleep in class, fall asleep, whatever. And the political science class consisted of essentially like a news clip that's cut from mainstream news at the time, network news, but for like a half-hour segment made for school. And it was all the news of the day. So we'd watch this and get quizzed on it. And I just, could sleep through every single one and would wake up, fill out the test, and ace it every time. I think I had 100 in the class overall, and then studied political science at Temple as a minor, and the history major, political science minor. Did my main, basically completed the capstone. I was one history course away from having the major done, finished the political science minor, and I was like, 18, I don't know how many credits away I am from a degree, 16, 13 away from a degree, and it's all BS credits, stuff I wouldn't even need. It's elective stuff. So I basically have a degree, although I don't ever, but this is probably the first time in my life that I've ever explained that deeply. And the only reason I say that is simply to state for people, I know this world works on merit, and slightly more than just a guy on his couch talking about this, So I think I have a deep understanding of some of this stuff. If you read my Substack, which I just got OBS working, and was figuring out some technical issues. So I got OBS working. I'm going to start do screen sharing. So that's going to change this channel a lot. And I'd like to really move in the direction of doing more lives and screen sharing. So look out for that. Anybody that sees this, I think it's probably within the cards that I should start another account, or somebody start one for me, because I'm sure I'm on about every single list that you could be on with this one here. And, comments get blocked and run off all the time. all types of stuff, dude. All types of stuff. I'm convinced that even in like chats, I swear there's only certain people that can see me in chats. And I go in different places and yeah, some places in chats, it seems like hardly anyone can see me. And in some places, it seems like it's open. I've talked to other people that say the same thing. It seems like they're in some chats where no one can see them. But yeah, who knows how all that works, but for sure, whatever flags they got them on me. So definitely need help getting this out there. I have no supporters. No one sees my stuff. If you look back over, my Substack account is linked. Look back over some of the articles, I get into some politics stuff starting around the first assassination attempt on Trump, the one that almost blew his head off live on TV. So let me see what else, man. I was in the wave of people that really started posting in 2020. I think I probably would have had a channel going in 2020, but I had stuff censored right off the rip, man. I put as a matter of fact, I have 2 videos up right now on this account that are some of my earliest videos on this account, and they were flagged at the time. I couldn't put those up until 6 months ago, right? Or I don't know, but they weren't able to be up right away. There was another one that talked about spike protein, and that was like early in 2020. And I was discussing, the experiments before they even rolled them out. And yeah, my stuff just got hammered, dude. So it pretty much discouraged me. I would lie if I said it didn't discourage me from pursuing it. I felt pointless. And, it's a shame they did that to a lot of people. And they're doing it again. It brings me to a point. I didn't get into the Garland-Nixon episode the other day, but I saw from the title that he basically is making one of my major points. And that's what he was talking about. He's like, you guys were fooled with Russian disinformation. You were fooled with COVID. Now you're fooled again, twice over right now, Ukraine and Israel. This has been one of my major points, especially since COVID. I've been in this space for quite a while, like for instance, I'll talk about red lines. I have a thing to talk about Obama and Putin and red lines from 2014, and so I've been looking and dealing with these sort of things for quite a while. But 2020 really made me want to speak up. I knew things had changed, and I knew very early on that was what it was. Dr. Paul Cottrell. One of the things I think I might write is a history, and from my view, of what happened in COVID early on. I think it would be a really neat thing to have out there. And from my opinion right now, I don't think that like the people really get the respect that they deserve. For the big people that were really putting out the information at the time. So Chris Martinson was just huge, man. It continues to be. Dr. John Campbell, if you go ahead and look in his comments, go to the videos at the time, and I was in there talking about how pleading Dr. John to not to not do it. And, he ended up having a bad experience and changing his perspective on that whole thing. And now he's one of the leading voices in getting truth out there. So, things are changing in a big way, but things have obviously ramped up at the same time since COVID. And that censorship was really alarming. So life for me got in the way, or else I probably would have been pushing into my energy into a channel. But here we are, and definitely been pushed to do this stuff. Definitely been pushed to share what I have. I think everybody around me that knows me is like, you should be doing something with this sort of thing. This part of me, and I like to do a lot of different stuff, man. This may be my problem, but I think we're going to work out a way just to do it all anyway. So, stay tuned for that. A lot of fun stuff, man. I'm an artist, and I think I can pull off doing a lot of these different things for people. I think people enjoy it. So I think I have a lot to offer. But right now we got the geopolitics analysis hat on. It's kind of giving a little bit of my background there. This moment that we're in, what I was saying with the OBS, this will enable me to share some of my papers. I've been writing about current events lately a lot. I've been driven to write about how things are happening right now in the world. I think this recent paper really nailed it for me. Recent article, recent essay. The lies in our media, the lies in Western media are so intense. The brainwashing of the public is so intense. It runs so deep. I can't believe how bad that they have people, and right now we are in a mission critical situation because we had, right, a lot of responsibility in the sense that we were like the power in the world. We abused that for a long time. I think they had a lot of people fooled with September 11th, and they regathered people behind the government and us as a nation, right? But we see where it's at now. We see how they have abused the power, right? What I'm going to be exposing, especially in this recent paper and into the future, is how bad our leaders in the West, America and the West, have gotten lazy and drunk on their power and corrupt, and how corrupt they are. And their corruption and their power and everything got to their head. It's the classic example of someone in authority that abuses their authority to hurt other people and gain advantage for themselves. And they do it to the point, this plays out over and over. They do it to the point that it's so apparent. Everyone knows it's happening. It just happens. It's a thing, and it's out in the open then. And then they don't even realize how lazy that they are with it. And now they're out there like literally breaking laws out in the open and da. And eventually they do it to the wrong person, wrong situation, and they pay for it. They do it. It becomes so much out in the open that they lose favor with the people that used to respect them. You can't lead without the favor of those who you're leading. So, we've gotten to this point, and that's going to be a lot about what I'm going to be talking about. But within that, we've done a lot of damage as a country, right? I know a lot of us have been fooled as Americans and thinking that it was in the name of good. I can tell you I have personal ties to that myself, but the facts is that we live in a corporate neo-colonial empire, and this empire of the West, this corporate neo-colonial oligarchy. I was talking to a guy the other day. He called it comic, and corporate oligarchical military industrial complex. Colonialism, right? So double C. But either way, that's how I've been framing our power structure like that since I went to Temple. Took those political science classes I was talking about, and so for about 20 years. And it's clear that we're controlled by corporate money, man. When you see like the CEOs and leaders go back and forth, just like the Biden administration guaranteed. Watch how many officials from that are left from Democratic administrations that skip to these different companies that they used to regulate, right? So, but we're within our country acting wild on the world stage, abusing and losing the power that they have. We are sitting here and we're being abused too. And it's kind of like cool if we're being abused, we don't want to do nothing about it. That's one thing, frankly. It's up to you. But like now we're being abused. We're not doing anything about it. And it's having like such a negative effect on the rest of the world, man. It's not bad enough that our endless wars didn't cause all the pain and suffering that they did around the world. But here we have the Israelis who are the epitome of evil. I mean, anyone that's seen the reality of what's happening on the ground, what else can you say? If you want to talk about things and imagery and stuff that's hard to come by or taken away from, what I'm trying to say, unable to see, check out my last video. Say it might be, not the last one, the one before. Say no to nuclear war. It's that one. Call to organize, say no to nuclear war. Yeah, and that one, towards the end, I have a little montage of some clips that are they've typically been scrubbed offline and hard to really find, and they don't let them be shown. So, but those are the types of grim realities of this conflict and this war. And when you see what the Israelis are doing every day, what they have done every day, right? It's like, what are we in? We're in like over 400 days or something like that in this war. I mean, they're just marching people around place to place, no food, no medicine, no water. They're locking doctors up. That I never thought in my life that I would see what's played out in the last, year plus over there. It's disturbing. I have some articles on my Substack there too, and I'm going to start to go over these different ones from the past. A lot of them are still very, very relevant, and all my stuff has aged very well. It just generally does. And check out some of the stuff on there. It's just sick, man. I started off talking about the lies, and that's a perfect example. I don't know when I wrote the article in there, but it says Palestine, and I have George Floyd in parentheses. Palestine to the world, I can't breathe. And that's how I saw it at the time. And at the time, I never thought it would go on like to where it's at now, and continue and continue. Is that pain? I feel like I had a tick on me recently and pulled him off my dog, and I'm like freaked out anytime I see a spot on me. Yeah. That's not a tick though. Anyway, yeah, it was sometime over the summer that I wrote that, and the lies, I'm convinced, because it's only gotten worse. And then like the photos I said are in the back of my video, they were of the hospital where people were burned alive. And it's just only getting worse and worse and worse. And that's what in this article I think I realized it's been it's been the main driving force for me to get the information out there, is because I know for a fact that most Americans don't see the truth. They don't get it. They don't see it. I don't understand why, they don't see it. I don't know why. it was like Garland Nixon was saying in that thing. That was my point. It's like, when are you guys going to get it? You keep getting lied to over and over. The point of that is, I've been saying for a while that we need to pick new arbiters of truth. Those were the words that I used. And that's because the news structure, the institution of journalism and media is corrupted. All of our institutions in our country are corrupted. That's what is at the heart of what needs replaced in the government. So I felt like I needed to try to get the truth out there to my fellow Americans. When our tax money is being used to fight an unjust war in Ukraine, when our tax money is being used to slaughter innocent people, man, innocent people. I don't, the day after the election or in the week following, I saw all these women shaving their heads, man. Shaving their heads, and I don't understand how, like, it was a perfect encapsulation of the brainwashing, right? There are people being burned alive, literally, innocent people being slaughtered. Not only that, like, we should be that upset if it was happening, like, anywhere, right? But it's happening with not only our money, but our support, everything. They couldn't do it without us. We are enabling it, right? We are the have you ever seen Requiem for a Dream? But we're the mom who keeps buying back the TV, and then her son pawns it every day, and we go to the pawn shop and buy it back so we have a TV. We're the parent enabling the drug addict, or the friend partner enabling the drug addict. And even worse yet, man, we are enabling a genocide. That's what we're doing. There's no even analogy appropriate. So, as we're paying for innocent women and children to be killed, all in the name of being told that they're Muslim, right? That's the justification. That's the psyop that's been constructed. So you are okay with this, which is ridiculous in its own right. But after an election, while innocent people are being murdered, killed on our dime, with our okay, these women freak out and care so much about this election that they start shaving their heads en masse. So, in my opinion, we should have been shutting this down because of Palestine and funding the Jews a long time ago. We should have just been shutting this country down, man. We should organize, make it so we can all take off, and everybody can be good. We'll just leave it like that and shut it down. Period. This is where we need to be doing something, organizing on the weekends, marching on the weekends, something. We're killing people every day. We're killing innocent people every day. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Get some coffee too. So yeah, it disturbed me to see this be a thing. I don't understand how there could be really anything like more important than than acting on this right now. Like, if you're going to care about anything at all, you should be caring about what we are doing and allowing to happen to these Palestinian people. And aside from that, care about what the Jews are doing to them. We should be caring about the likely over 1 million that have been slaughtered on the battlefield alone in Ukraine, needlessly. If we had sober leadership and we weren't run by a military industrial complex corporate oligarchy, trying to build an empire, a neo-colonial empire, we would have been able to deal with Putin for sure and not come to war. He wanted to be part of Europe. Are you kidding me? It's insane. It's all a joke. It was like they got a plan to hurt Russia's economy now, and they're going to put him into NATO or put him into the EU. So, but yeah, it's so just like these women shaving their heads, and it's ridiculous when you have people being burned alive and people being marched all over. Literally, what's happening over there is worse than anything that's happened in World War II. We are setting the bar for history right now. Talk about, like, what did the German citizens allow happen in the concentration camps? Like, I'm not even going to say how all that really went down. Say it went down the way they said it did, and we'll just stay with that story. But talk about, well, how did the German citizens like deal with that? And they just let it all happen. What we're dealing with right now is far worse. We have committed far worse sins than any of those citizens ever could have. There's no excuse to miss what's happening. Their censorship is not that deep. It's just like with the experiments, man. People who are ignorant to the truth, have many people showing them the truth, but they choose to believe they're Rachel Maddow, who lied to them over and over again, or anyone else that's on network TV. Like, it's insane to me. I haven't had TV in I don't know, probably 20 years. I think maybe in the last 25 years, I've had maybe three years of a TV account or something. And I haven't had a smartphone now for 2 years. And no phone. This is a laptop. That's all I have. And when I see people, and I mean, I've been eating clean food since you couldn't buy organic food on the shelves. So I've been hip to processed foods for a long time. Never ate seed oils. I'm in really good health, man. I'm 43, and what I see in other people is people are just brainwashed and like hopeless, and I swear between the food and the drugs, they're in a daze, like, I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to justify how Americans are okay with this. How are we okay with them spending our money the way they do? That alone is crazy. You got people in Tennessee and North Carolina in tents. It's shameful. Shameful, man. So this is the center of a lot of my work. This is where I'm coming from. I would love to ignite people to the truth and understand that all we have is right now in the moment, and we can create whatever world we want by carrying out whatever the required action in the moment. And I've changed my life all over the place from this to that, and mastered a lot of different things. I know that fact better than anyone, and or as good as anyone. And we could do whatever we want with this reality. And right now, we are sitting back and we're letting a bunch of insane psychopaths, megalomaniacs, drunk on God knows what. I mean, you saw the Kamala video the other day. Jeez. She needs rehab, like legit. But we're sitting back and we're letting them just completely ruin everything. We're forsaking everything that was handed to us, even if what was given to us wasn't perfect, right? There still was a lot of good in it, and there was plenty of good to be salvaged. And we have all the tools, especially in America. We have them on paper. We have all the tools, and we have the structure to not allow these things. And we're squandering it. And we're at this point right now, I am for sure ashamed to hand my kids the world that we're handing them. Personally, I have a lot of faith in my generation. I hope that we can do some things with the world as we move forward into the future. And I think that we're cut from a different cloth, man. Born in 1981, and I think that we can do things. The boomers seem to be very limited, dude. I think right now they're a major issue. They're the core of this group of people that refuses to look at the truth. And it's at the point where it's harmful to the rest of the nation, to the rest of the people that want to live out, the what's given to us in the Constitution. They're literally infringing on our freedoms with their ignorance, in a sense, massive brainwashing, massive psychological operations is what we deal with in our reality. And it's very difficult, very, very difficult. So that's where I'm coming from. I hope to communicate a lot of these issues in ways that gets through to people. Typically, that's a strength of mine. I talk to a lot of people all the time throughout my day, and I would love to do a show that's like a call-in show. That would be like super dope at some point. But yeah, I hope to use that strength to communicate to people that these are things that we need to care about as Americans. Right now, we're losing our standing on the world, right? It's up to Americans if that stretches all the way, to the fullest extent that it potentially may, let's say. Okay. And let me explain that, because our leaders we're done. They fumbled the bag, right? Our petrodollar's done. It's gone. It's beyond repair. The American, hegemon is no more. And they've squandered their place as number one in the world. What we're seeing in the fronts of the Third World War happening right now is that they totally slacked also in their on the military aspect. That's the part of things where that gives them the ability to be as corrupt as they are, and to slang their dick around the world stage like this. And they even slept on that. Listen, man, they ran this into the ground, and I think they just drastically misplayed things. In my opinion, the lying has become one of, if not their biggest downfalls. No doubt, on the world stage, it has caused BRICS to coalesce in the way with the speed that it did and effectiveness. I think BRICS would probably be, it certainly wouldn't have a currency. It certainly wouldn't be trading like that in its own monetary system with its own, SWIFT similar system that is now set up. it would have been a gathering of countries and they would have done things, but nowhere near like this. This is a new world structure. Between our rampant imperialism and neocolonialism and disregard for other countries, well-being. I mean, we just used people around the world. We've disrespected so many people, these IMF loans and burying countries in debt to exploit them for their resources. This is neocolonialism, and that's what we've been doing. And if we couldn't do it through bribery and intimidation, then we did it through war, right? And if you didn't want to agree to be a member of our banks and play our game, then we'll come in and we'll force it upon you. Especially if you got something we want. Especially. You think the rest of the world, man, like they're not going to put up with this forever, right? Like, how long can we do that for? And if we do that, we better stay on top of our shit. Like, I mean, it's just not a way to behave. That's the bottom line. So by them, their imperialism is bad enough, but we were already at a point where the world was sick with that. If you look at the 90s, early 2000s, the world felt the same way about America, but they were scared of America. They were scared, right? In the time since, we've now seen, the world has seen that there's a math problem to beat this thing, right? There's a blueprint to beat this thing. And what's interesting is that's why I want to talk about India. That's the title to this the other day. Is I started talking about BRICS and how so it's our behavior that has caused BRICS to coalesce. BRICS is an alignment of maligned nations, countries that have been sanctioned, that have been, maybe invaded, occupied, countries that they're maligned. They're not in the club, right? Now, for a long time, these nations were able to be kept very, very much as let's say international pariahs, right? Think about like the North Korea hermit state, right? That's the picture I'm talking about. Think about, Iran. That's why they really had Iran looking up until recently. So the events of the last year plus are changing that. And again, this has been driven by America's continual lying, backstabbing, and just, overall disrespect for their friends on the world stage and people they work with. We haven't done nothing but try to take advantage of people and use people. So all these enemies that we've made, or all the people that only aligned with us out of fear, and they saw our lies, they were sick of our abuse. If they had a way out, they would take it. That's happened with BRICS. I don't know if people know, but like that's happened, right? This is how you have United Nations votes of 130 or whatever, 140, 50, whatever it was, repeatedly actually, of United Nations. I can't think of the word, but they vote resolutions on Israel and Palestine, right? And only to be vetoed by the United States. But what we're seeing in recent United Nations votes are a gathering of nations to the point of that offset. So we are the ones that are now the pariahs. So at best, you have United States, Israel, and the G7. And when you're talking about Israel, you can take half of those G7 out as far as supporting with Israel. I think they wouldn't die on the hill with Israel if they had to. So we in the United States, we're playing a very, very risky game. We don't want to go down aligned with Israel. It's a bad look. What we're doing already is a bad look. aside from it being just wrong, right? So I was talking about BRICS being this gathering of maligned nations. Gaddafi would probably be there if he wasn't killed, and it's interesting. That's why I wanted to talk about India. I got in this crazy, crazy conversation with a good friend of mine. Not a good friend, but he's a good friend in the sense he works at the gas station down the street. And I talk to him when I'm in there, as I frequent there. And young Indian kid. And we talk a lot about history and geopolitics, stuff like that. And I asked him what he thought about Israel and Palestine, and if he cared about the genocide and everything. And he gave me a surprising answer. And then, obviously he cares about genocide and people, but what he said was, does he care in the sense of, let's put it this way, from his perspective, yeah, he cares. However, his people in India had experienced genocide, had experienced violence, religious violence, sectarian violence on levels that are massive. And the world didn't even bat an eye. And it was crazy because I didn't really know what he was talking about. And he went to explain, we had this big, long conversation about India, how India went from being occupied as a colony, as a British colony, and its independence, the partitions, and all this different stuff. How one of the dudes who joined all the kingdoms, he was schooled in South Africa, so there's a lot of what went into the theory and then practice of splitting up India and trying to do it right came from South Africa. There were lessons learned in South Africa that were implemented in India. Then India gets, then there's the whole issue with India and nuclear weapons, and they developed their own nuclear weapons, right? India owns hypersonic technology, right? That's something I'll get to in a bit and talk about that in my recent article. But it was really interesting to me because we don't hear India right now in the BRICS is they're in a kind of weird position because they seem to play nice to the US and Israel. I was alarmed to recently find out how pro-Israeli their media is. Their media is just like glazing the Jews. I mean, it's crazy. It's even worse. Their media is on a whole other level than even our media. And you're starting to see that. I said that in a recent article too, is that depending on what part of the neo-colonial empire you're on or you're in, the propaganda comes with different flavors and seasonings. For instance, in the Ukraine, the Brits were the aggressive ones pushing for more things. Every time we crossed red lines, they did it first typically, and then we followed. But we play these good cop, bad cop positions all over the world, and it's always just the same result, But back to how the media is reported, Israeli media reports this war completely different than our media does. As a matter of fact, it was quite interesting. There's a common thing where you can literally take headlines or copy and paste stories. Or if I took an Israeli newspaper story about the happenings of the war that day, the day before, and read it as a report here on YouTube or on American internet, right? It would lead to you getting flagged because they allow different information to be released in different places. So what's normal over there to be talked about, we can't even say here. If you go back and watch, I got Netanyahu's speech when he came to Washington here on my channel. Go back and watch that. And there's different parts where he flips into the narrative, right? And you can tell that he's used to spinning an Israeli narrative. And there are certain parts of his narrative that didn't quite hit for us, and then certain parts that did hit. And I think they hit better than he expected. But the reason those differences happen is because of what I'm talking about, right? They tell us all different things, and that's how they move things along at different rates, man. COVID was played like that, right? But so you have oh, why was I saying that? I forget what I was saying about the Israeli media and our media. That's all right. So, to round up my points, oh, you have BRICS. Oh, how BRICS is, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about India's media and how much they glaze for Israel. That just surprised me. So that was all. I was just making a sub point of that. So anyway, it became apparent to me from talking to this dude, my boy at the gas station, that boy, India and South Africa likely too. I'm just not as familiar with South Africa's history, but I'm sure you would find the same things there. But India is more BRICS than Russia and Iran, if you want to put it that way. Like India is definitely an OG. Right now, in our current state of geopolitics, they are really being friendly to the West and or at least we're trying to cater to them. Maybe it's because they're the ones that we think have the most chance of keeping neutral. I don't know. But we're basically at war with Iran and Russia. There's a good chunks of BRICS aligned nations that don't like us really. And then there's some that are kind of friendly to us. It was so interesting. I had this conversation because, and maybe this is why they play India like that, man. I don't know. But I could tell you that there is a whole history in that country that is hidden from the West. And we don't tell that story as the truth. We don't, because there is a blueprint there with India. I'd be willing to bet Iran followed some of what India did, to tell you the truth. But man, India is truly, I learned out of this conversation, they are the BRICS OG before there was BRICS. They've dealt with Western psyops. They've dealt with the occupation. They've had resistance. They've had peaceful resistance. Organized. I mean, it's they've dealt with partition boundaries, fueled sectarian violence. That's one thing that the BRICS and the global community is getting hip to, is any sectarian violence is starting to be understood as a red flag, as something that was likely seeded by Western intelligence, and that's the truth. That's the truth. Maybe not completely, but I think at this point, that's why you have Putin going into Afghanistan recently. That's why you have all these different places around the world stopping their fighting with each other, because they're getting it. They understand that, oh, we were pit against each other and used against each other by the West. And they've continued to do all this. And you know what? We should try. This is the time to do something about it, right? Because like I said, a lot of these places, they played the games, but if they had a different way, they would have done it all along, right? They would have rode with a different power. And now it is happening. They are trading without US dollars. We're going down. And boy, it's just super, super interesting to see when you understand the truth about BRICS. BRICS didn't just happen. This was a long, long time in the making. And when you think about South Africa being a part of this and how far they've come from being an apartheid state, responsibly giving up nuclear weapons even, and now you have this change in leadership, nature of the leadership essentially. But the leadership that they've shown since, you call it blacks or whatever, but dude, that case that they put together against Israel for genocide was astounding. I mean, it's I don't understand what more you could want from a nation on this earth, to have those values and to go through all that the legal way and use the proper means to handle something like this. Cheers to the South Africans. Applause to the South Africans for getting things together and taking action on this. I'm sad that our government officials aren't doing that. But it's just very, very interesting. Sometime we'll talk about it. Sometime we'll talk about that more in depth about that conversation with India and how much they truly are the blueprint in a lot of ways to the non-aligned powers surviving in this neo-colonial environment, and that our world has been. And they don't want people to know those stories. Trust that. Trust that. So we're going to talk about the history of India, probably from time to time, I'd imagine. I think it's something I'm probably going to go into with him a bit more. But other than that, I really want to touch on, I want to, talk about my paper. And it's linked down in the description. It's essentially a summary of, this run up to this nuclear confrontation as it's been framed in the West. And it was quite an interesting experience writing that. It was a gathering. I didn't really have to research too much. It was just gathering massive amounts of information, and spend a lot of the essay dispelling lies and building a solid framework for a very complex situation and large, diverse situation, but building a solid enough framework to make some easy arguments that people should be able to see if you're American. So I think it's good work. I hope people can get through it, and I hope it reads easy, but I'd love for people to check it out. But this essay, I really, with this confrontation happening, I described the Oreshnik, essentially what the lies, again, were at the center of this, man. We would have never been able to walk up to this point of interaction that we're at with Russia had we have freedom of the press, right? If we would have the proper, constitutionally protected free press, there's no doubt about it, they wouldn't have been able to do what they did and continue to provoke and poke the bear, as it were, as they like to call it. They want to make a game of this. And, these repeated escalatory provocations, crossing these red lines that the Russians laid out and they were very clear about all of them. This is something that we should be alarmed about, right? As an American citizen, thank God that these leaders are sober. Thank God that they display patience and restraint. Talking about the leaders of our opposition, namely Russia and Iran here. But we're still playing with fire. And if we don't come to grips with reality or force our leadership to come to grips with reality and start to behave responsibly on a world stage, then we're going to get punished, man. We're going to pay for it. If we don't do anything, on the other hand, and continue to sit here on our hands as citizens, then we've spoken. And in my opinion, we're getting close to that point already, right? Our silence is consent. So it's really pertinent with these major events happening that American citizens understand what's happening and what's on the line. This test of the hazelnut, of the Oreshnik missile, it was just a key point. Major happenings there, a lot about the lies that they've been able to pull off. They've been able to just bury us with and create these fairy tale narratives, right? A lot of what these lies had to deal with is hiding the fact that we don't have in the West military technological supremacy any longer. With the advent of hypersonic weapons in 2016, they were successfully tested by Russia, I think, for the first time. China had them soon after. India had them, I believe, soon after. But essentially, these hypersonic weapons rendered, long-standing truths in like nuclear deterrence, right? Or even, just deterrence by force, mutually assured destruction. These long-standing tenets of international relations were broken with that because Mutually assured destruction is dependent upon both sides having equal weaponry. And it's not just the equal weaponry, it's the nature of those weapons, right? There's plenty of situations that you could have equal weaponry on both sides, but still not have mutually assured destruction, right? But because of the nature of radar, ICBMs, nuclear weapons, it created this like sweet spot of mutually assured destruction. And it really was a piece from God in a sense. But that doesn't, that doesn't hold any longer. This isn't the Cuban Missile Crisis. And that's what I wanted to get across in this paper. We are at a severe disadvantage. We don't have hypersonic technology. We don't have defensive capabilities that are even, I would say, on par with like conventional ballistic technology or missile technology. I don't believe that we could even, I think we could be hit without hypersonics quite effectively. Iran showed that in their strike on Israel. That's one of the things, like, it wasn't portrayed like that. It was a massive success. Israel's response, massive failure. And that was a groundbreaking moment in history when we saw over 100 ballistic missiles, and these were big ones. These were big missiles smashing into a Western capital. And not just that, but literally like the military and intelligence capital of Israel. I mean, this is huge. This wasn't talked about at all. And on the flip side, they couldn't get close to Iranian airspace. Apparently, they can see our stealth, right? They have better radar, better air defense. This is all the context of what's happened on the battlefield. Ukraine served as a proving ground to some degree. Certainly, the war in West Asia, in the Levant, has proven that you don't need high technology to be innovative and effective on the battlefield. And our enemies have been proven. They've been, and how cheers to them. Bless the resistance, man. I'm someone that's on the side of freedom and peace in this world, and I think the American citizen is an oppressed bunch. I'm trying to communicate to all of us Americans that we're no different than these oppressed people in the world. We're just different in the sense that we have the opportunity to do something about it. So that is at the center of this confrontation, is a technological disadvantage on our behalf, on behalf of the West. So we can't hit them like they can hit us. They're using newly developed technology from, the 2000 teens, from the 2020s, brand new stuff, when literally our fleet of ICBMs was deployed in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. I think I read an article recently, it was in the last few years, and it said something like, it was like a top NORAD command guy, and he said if he fired all the Minutemen ICBMs, he'd be surprised if like a third of them launched successfully. This missile fleet that we have, he said some of the silo doors probably wouldn't even open because they're rusted shut, or like because of physical problems, even if everything worked. Who knows if the solid state fuel or, is good after 50 years. I think they did an update to them, tuned them up as they were in recent years, but I know they tested one recently, but that's what we have. Those missiles, our missiles, are run on the types of computers that I had when I was a kid, like my first computer, like a 486. They're run on like, cream colored box computers with like green letters, MS-DOS. floppy disks. They got like the big floppy disks. You think I don't know, dude. So that's what we got. That's what they got. Ukraine has been really a testing and proving ground for weaponry. We've seen how our, bloated budget produced military tech has stacked up against, these countries that are making things as cheap as they can and as efficient as they can, and have been producing and research and developing in a way that directly counteracts our best strengths and threats. And we've been sitting here getting all the red flags and haven't done anything about it. And now we are at a huge disadvantage. Like I can't stress that enough. We should be happy. Do you understand how happy we should be that these folks don't want to use what they are able to do on us as payback for how we've treated them in the past? I think they're cool if we would just kind of like cool it and leave everybody alone, man. And I think personally, as far as these weapons go, I don't think they want anything like that. I don't think they're out to kill a nation of people, frankly. I certainly don't think they want to empire build. And I think for these countries, they're happy with having a military tech advantage that protects them. And if they can protect their own borders and live in a unadulterated way, unmolested by Western influences, that's good for them. That's a win. And it is. Damn right it is. But we should be happy, man, that they don't want to use this on us. I mean, picking a fight in this context is insane. It's literally insane, man. I mean, it's like the school bully grew up and, came to fucking the reunion and he's old, fat, and way out of shape, and he's picking fights with kids that are fucking Rip Diesel. Because they used to be a little smaller than them in school, he thinks he can still beat them up now. I can make any other types of analogies. We're not fit to do this. They can beat us 20 ways to Sunday with this missile technology. We're generations behind what they have, both offensive and defensive. And it's at a point where our safety is actually an issue. It was really, for me, I've been speaking up against these wars and general empire building because it's a moral thing. I always would say it's a moral thing for me, but now it's literally our safety is at risk. And wake up, America. That's the point. That is the point. Question is, like, do we have a treasonous chain of command? Whoever's making the choice in our country right now, whoever committed to this policy shift to attack within Russia with the specific missiles that have been discussed the way they have, this is not, by far sets the precedent for lame duck actions by any presidential administration. Is this a treasonous act, right? Trump's got a mandate to end the war in a landslide. So I think that a lame duck administration coming off that type of loss when the war was on the ballot, it borderlines on treason to me. Man, it's crazy stuff. Check out that paper. I'd love for some of you guys to read it. And can't wait to share. I want to go over this drawing that I did. It's up on my community page, but now with OBS, I'll be able to go over it on screen, share it, and did this cartoon of Netanyahu, and I like it, and I'd like to share it. So look forward to that. I'm gonna try. I think I might hop on a little later. I didn't get to talking about what's going on in Syria, and this is what I was talking about with this essay. You know how the West was lost. You know, we lost our hegemony. We fumbled the bag, and the subtitle to this was World War III was lost before it even started. Now, I've been saying that World War III has already been raging for months now. I think it's clear it's already begun. People are starting to see it. And I think we're going to have official, might even happen today. Boris Johnson coming out saying that we're in a proxy war with Russia. The West is. Let's just admit it, he said, So they're starting to break it to us. And the reason is because we've legally committed to war with Russia. The actions taken by the missile attacks legally, by default, place us at war with Russia, regardless if we choose to make that declaration or not. It's interesting right now as we speak, I believe. I'm curious. I should research it here this evening. But I read about it the other day. Russia was pursuing legal action against the British pilots who flew the jets. British pilots flew jets over Russian airspace and used their British missiles to strike the target. Some of them hit, some of them were shot down. The point is that Britain, technically on paper, legally, has friendly relations with the Russian Federation. They are not a party to war. As a matter of fact, I don't know if they may have already kicked out. I wouldn't be surprised. They probably don't have any Russian diplomats in Britain. And they probably don't have embassies open and things like that. But I think there's still some relations, but they're not at war with each other. That's the point. Russia is pursuing murder charges and charges on the individual pilots because they're not in war, so therefore this is a criminal act. Interesting. That's why all this talk about Russia's military doctrine, I cover that in this essay as well. I'm telling you, this wraps everything. It really gets most angles. I really look forward to getting it out there to people, but that's why this military doctrine is such a big deal. Putin is by the books. That country is legally proper, right? Imagine if our Constitution was legit and everything was argued the way it should be, right? Like the laws were interpreted and you could argue interpretations, but everything was followed, the rules that's like, they are legal to the T. They're big on international law because, believe it or not, they're not a dictatorship. He has to act with authorization, similar to our government in certain ways. And because of that, and because they're a federation, they have laws that govern certain decisions, like very, very important decisions, or very important laws that are respected. And they follow the law domestically, internationally. That's what makes these doctrine shifts so big, is because it's an official statement by putting the law in place that clearly speaks to what they plan to do, right? Should we provoke? They're literally going out of their way to create laws to spell it out for us, what's going to happen next. And we still ignore it. The assessment that you get in like the Times, New York Times, or any of these major Western outlets of these happenings, right? Like the military doctrine or any of these things, the assessment and the interpretation is laughable, man. It is absurd, yo. some of the things I came across while researching this were just, I mean, it's crazy every time I dip into mainstream media. They just, I mean, what they say about the Oreshnik attack? The guy was saying how like, oh yeah, it struck it, but it probably did some damage, but they'll be back up and running in a few days, you know, and saying, I mean, you know, they didn't even classify the missile right here in the West. I mean, it's just crazy the amount that they lie and underplay things. And the way they frame Putin, again, you know, to prove this again. Today I saw they are framing him and framing the whole situation as still being a nuclear threat. And just today, they come out. I'm pretty sure they might even change their doctrine again today to do exactly what I just said a second ago, to specifically state legally by law and be clear about how they intend to respond to the next provocation. And they came out, and I'm telling you, they play 7D chess and they're way ahead of us. They came out and they said, listen, this doctrine is not it's not a guarantee or a desire to use nuclear weapons, and the use of these weapons isn't guaranteed. We prefer to not. It was just basically clear and saying about how, you know, they're not going to escalate to that degree. And they will attack. Yeah, they'll respond in kind. So in a sense, you could say that like they did call his bluff, you know, like on some real shit. In that sense, they did. And it's not going to get them a win. They're still going to get obliterated in a sense. But for like they were able to escalate and attack within Russia without drawing a nuclear or like a major devastating response in a sense. He didn't relaunch the Oreshnik. He hit them with waves of Iranian drones. Yeah, I'm curious about the details in that attack today, you know. But basically that's what happened. They restated their doctrine, pretty much saying how like we're going to respond in kind and not escalate to nuclear. And then the West in their media kept framing it as still we're trying to frame this as a nuclear threat. And there literally was no nuclear threat. Like literally, he spelled it out that there is no nuclear threat. This series, the war, and really the whole game of geopolitics has been a series of traps, physically, militarily, and diplomatically. And the Russians are just far ahead. You know, when you're so corrupt and you're so lazy and you're used to getting away with everything and having it your way so long, you're not malleable and you can't think on your feet and you don't have any other gear. And that's what's shown to be true. So yeah, man, I think this should replay well. I think this was a good talk and had some good stuff. I enjoyed talking, and I hope some people find this. I can see that nobody hopped in. As I wonder if this ever played on like anybody's even screen, you know? Like, did anyone even see this as like a thumbnail? You know, who knows? Who freaking knows? Could be talking myself, man. Anyway, I'm gonna try to hop on later. I gotta talk about I want to discuss what's happening in Syria, because that I was getting to there. I was about to say, if anyone has doubted that we are in World War III, which, like I said, the West already lost before it started. But for sure, it's already started. As I just went into there, we're in World War III by default with Russia's laws, right, and our attacks. But if anyone's doubted, now we have a front opening up in Syria. We have, you know, essentially mercenaries of the neo-colonial empire, the corporate neo-colonial empire, being dressed up as and made to look as and played as moderate Muslim groups. You have them all of a sudden in Syria going and attacking. It looks like they were trying to blitz for Aleppo. That's what it looks like. When I come back on, I'm going to have a map. I'd be willing to bet that all this has to do with supply to Lebanon. I didn't really see much about it yet, but it would seem to me that if Netanyahu, the Jews, and the neo-colonial West agree to a ceasefire in Lebanon because they're getting beat, getting hit over the head with rockets and missiles nonstop, right? Nonstop. I mean, Hezbollah is smashing them. And rest in peace, the martyr Nasrallah. Rest in peace, Sinwar. Hero Sinwar is, I mean, he's somebody that I have the most ultimate respect for. And I just think he is awesome, dude. I believe that he completely chose to die the way that he did. He did it on his choosing. And he is awesome, dude. And I was working on a pen draw on him. I'll have stuff like that done soon. I'll have something for him done soon. But where is it? This all one I got. Well, whatever. I'll show that some other time. But Lebanon has been pounding them. The only way that the Jews, that Netanyahu could stop it was to literally stop it with a ceasefire. And what do? As soon as that ceasefire hits, now you're telling me that this is when this moderate Muslim group chooses to all of a sudden restart the war in Syria? See, this is why the lies matter in America. Because Americans don't realize that that was like, the war in Iraq never stopped. They shifted it to Syria, and it turned into a dirty war in Syria. And we tried to get Assad out of power. The Western neocolonials have still been holding a piece of land. If you talk about, like, if I had a big map where I could color in, we would, the West, corporate neocolonial empire, would have a little bit of color on a spot there on southeastern Syria. And that's like the Al Omar oil fields. And it's the, there's another gas field. I can't think of the name of the gas field, but it's right on the border of Iraq and Syria. We've had that. That's our guys. America's been there, right? Like, Americans don't really know that. ISIS, remember ISIS? The Islamic State? They're a Western intelligence creation. That has been proven. This al-Nusra Front or these other moderate Muslims, Western funded, Western intelligence operations. Some of them I've heard stories that literally there's even black ops guys or Western states fighting in it. I heard a story where literally we had ops guys faced off against each other in a gunfight, right? So Americans, this is all just completely allegedly and word of mouth and hearsay. And actually, I'm just LARPing. But apparently you had Americans playing roles on each side. And the roles that they're playing on each side ended up clashing, and now they're faced off against each other. Not as Americans, but as these two different Muslim groups, right? So Syria is right above Lebanon and wraps around it. And I'm pretty sure that Aleppo, if I'm thinking of my geography right, I know Aleppo's a little bit over here in the country. And if you think about where Israel was invading, right, from the south and then up Lebanon's east, that means that if they're active on those fronts, Lebanon cannot be supplied along any of that border. So that means they have to be supplied from points north of the border from there. And I'd be willing to bet that this Aleppo thing is a move to choke off supply from the points north from that Israel was holding or attempting to hold during their invasions of Lebanon, right? They had 5 divisions gathered on that border, and I'd be willing to bet that this push for Aleppo has to do with choking off anything north of that. Therefore, they can restart war with Hezbollah, siege them like Gaza, or do it as best they can. And that's the best way to get rockets and missiles to stop landing on Tel Aviv and on Haifa. That's Israel's air defense at this point, is moderate CIA Muslims in Syria. World War III, man. I don't know what you call it when you got a whole big area that wasn't at war. Now it is. The whole point is to disrupt supply routes and disrupt the goings on of another front of this war. We're in World War III. We're in World War III. I heard before I started recording this that you got Syria gearing up to make a push to take this land back. I heard they got within, right in the outskirts of Aleppo. I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they started from, but you got Erdogan behind it. You got definitely the U.S. behind it for sure. Western is behind. Western intelligence and probably special ops are behind this, and gear probably from our Alomar oil field and the base that they have right there, which has been under attack. You know, believe me, that's a heavily defended area. But I wouldn't be surprised if they busted out of there. And then, of course, I'm sure that you have Kurds involved in this. And, you know, you got Erdogan playing all sides. And there's probably different people that could benefit from this for different reasons. But the main reason is to help the Jews. No doubt about it. And, boy, Erdogan's going to find himself in trouble. They're not going to take him and continue to treat him with respect. They're not going to deal with him in the global south if he does things like this. Russia, Iran, behind the scenes more, but Iran had people, and they worked hard to stabilize Syria. That's another thing that's not talked about. That dirty war in Syria, that was a big L for the neo-colonial empire, and that was when Russia first flexed. I mean, yeah, they came down there and they got us out of there. They took care of this Islamic State, whatever we were trying to have, this scourge on the Syrian people. And they got the country back to running right. Kept Assad in place, allowed the people, Syrians to defend their country, and now this has started up again. And surely this has nothing to do with whatever they said. There's a statement put out by some of these groups. It's something to do about deterring aggression. Maybe that was I think a name of the mission or something. Ridiculous. I mean, it's surely cooked up in an office room at Langley or wherever else they work remotely. Who knows? It's sick, man. It's sick. We're certainly in World War III, no doubt about it. And yeah, I'm gonna do a little research about the Syria thing. I'm gonna come back with a map, man. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So, peace, blessings out there, everybody. You've been watching my channel. My name's Zach, and hope everybody's doing good. Look at that. Just talk for an hour and 24 minutes to nobody. Oh man. Bless up, bless up. Let's see what we got here. We got Archangel Michael right there. That's what that is. And we got the OG 70s lamp. We got the Buddha. So, Buddha lamp sitting on the crystals. Here, you know what? It'd be better to do it like that. Put some light on them. Oh, there we go. We got the Buddha. I found that crystal. I found both of those in the yard. That's a rose quartz, and that's like a white quartz. It's got little terminations on it. That's a cool piece right there. Forget what that is. And then we got some sage, and Mr. Book Monkey. My OG Book Monkey there. So, yeah, dude, hope everybody's good. Stop by later. We're going to talk about World War III in Syria some more. And I'm going to see if I can hook up my real mic and camera at OBS and get that working. So, blessings out. Peace.